I just wanted to continue briefly on our discussion yesterday about dependency on the Guru. You see, as they say, the Guru is within. The outer Guru points to the inner Guru. The inner Guru we cannot recognize initially. So, the role of the outer Guru, because this is the manifest world, what happens is, if it is our destiny, we come across someone who we think has touched something which we would love to touch. So, when that happens, it is my own higher self that has heard something outside through another person and it is appealed to it. So, the outer Guru is only reflecting what is already known inside but not yet revealed. Now, when it is revealed, for example, all there is consciousness, nobody is the doer of their actions, thy will be done. Now, when this is revealed, these become words to live by. So, one could say, at a deep level, one already knew this, but because the mind was so strong and so mired in separation, it lost sight of it. So, the Guru has only made the disciple regain the sight. That is all, not done anything more. Now, when this becomes a way of living, then the form of the outer Guru becomes irrelevant and relevant. For example, the Guru passes away and drops the body. The form is gone. The teaching lives on through the disciple, as we said yesterday. Now, this does not mean you stop venerating the Guru. So let's say my Guru is Sai Baba or whoever it may be, or the Buddha or whatever. Because I am in the realm of form, whenever I think of the Guru, it evokes my higher self. So I may have a photo of my Guru as a constant companion. It does not mean that the form of the Guru disappears in that sense. That is why when Nisargadatta Maharaj attained the highest enlightenment, his Guru told him that you have to continue singing bhajans. And based on the Guru's instructions, twice a day there were bhajans. He didn't need them, but he followed the Guru's instructions. When his Guru dropped the body, Nisargadatta Maharaj would go to the Samadhi and perform Aarti himself at the Guru's Samadhi. Because the form of the Guru is through which the realization happened. So how can you forget that form? That love is so strong and so powerful that it will continue till one's last breath. Why? Because this was not a love of a family member, of a child, of a parent. This was beyond the dimension of relationships in a sense. It was a love for my own higher self. My own higher self revealed to myself what life was all about through a form, because we are in the realm of form. So, in that sense, the form of the guru and the form of the disciple, that dynamic can never be broken. That is why you find in India, especially, whether it is a disciple of Ramana Maharshi, Sri Aurobindo, Sai Baba, they all have the form of their master in some way or the other in their house. It does not mean that it is still a codependent relationship. It could be, but it does not mean that. So, someone could be going to a traditional guru for years and saying, "Oh, I have my guru." The honest thing to ask this person, let's say we all know someone who has a guru and is going to a traditional guru, going to their ashram, whatever it may be, that would you say after meeting your guru, your life has changed? If so, in what way? Do you feel you have understood what life is about? Do you feel you are more at peace? Do you feel that your relationships with others are more harmonious than before you met your guru? Do you feel that your relationship with what happens in your life, pleasure and pain, is now viewed differently than before? And in most cases, people have not thought about all this, yet they have a guru. Because that is a traditional model of a guru disciple relationship. These questions have to be asked. I would ask someone that, do you feel you are now at peace? You've been going to your guru for so many years. And you even needn't ask. You will know for yourself. Let's say you have a family member who's been going to a guru. You will know whether that family member is more at peace now than before. Then you know, yes, something has changed. That is the only measure. Then you know the person has truly found their guru. My teacher had a traditional guru for 30 years. Traditional. Family guru, so family guru, go do seva and all that. And he said, but nothing happened. And when he met Nisargadatta Maharaj, the transformation was instant. So how is this transformation measured? There is only one way. Are you at peace and harmony with yourself and the world around you? In one of his earlier books, Ramesh had written, when the understanding goes deep inside, he said a dialogue almost emerges to life. Okay, life, go ahead and try to surprise me. Because you're so rooted in this peace that now it's like you're standing on a large, immovable rock. If you can see anyone you know, who has a guru, and you know this within your heart, this person is now anchored in peace, then you know a transformation has happened. Someone had come to me who is with a very large guru, and they have big events, big, like Guru's birthday is a big event, birthday party and balloons and this and that. No problem. She said how much she is immersed in this guru devotion, going to his ashram, all that stuff. So I said, is your celebration because you have seen a distinct change in your attitude to others and in an attitude to what happens in your life? And she told me that is irrelevant. Why are you even asking this question? I love my guru. So people don't want to accept that the role of the guru is to transform your life. It is not a comfort zone where you meet other people all celebrating the same guru, going for big events. That is not the role according to me. Then there are people in big spiritual organizations who come to me and say, we can't handle the politics of the organization. That is also there. Because human egos are human egos. The spiritual ego is bigger than the normal ego. So all these things happen. And the only answer is, whoever you consider a guru or a guide or a teacher irrelevant, have they touched your life? That is all. That is why I always ask people that prior to this teaching and after it, how do you feel your life has changed? Because that is what the guru is concerned with. Guru is not concerned with adoration and gifts. And having a big crowd. So Dinesh, you've come from Toronto. I'd like to ask you that when did you get exposed to this teaching, and do you feel it has in any way helped you through your life's journey?
Good morning. I've been exposed to this teaching for a long, long time.
How long would that be?
2007, I believe,
Okay.
when I took first initiation from Swami Kripamanandaji at Ramakrishna Paramhansa Vedanta Society of Toronto. And I've been listening to Swami Kripa Sarupyanandaji a lot in the beginning. So, and it has transformed my life a lot. And lately I was listening to you a lot and wanted to meet you in person. And you, early morning, for example, all the gurus I've been through my life, I bow to them, including you. And I'm content. I'm at peace. I'm content because of these teachings, because what I follow this. That's it. And God has given me everything what I desire in this life. No more. No more means I don't need anything else. That's it. In
And you
short,
would say you are at peace with
yes,
what
I'm at
happens in
peace.
your life?
I'm at peace with what happens in my life. Although means, as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, for example, human body, we are given human body, and ups and downs will be always there. But I also get angry. I don't say that I don't get angry, but I come out of it instantly and very far. I mean, I just let it go. I accept the way it is. That's it. I've said what I want to say.
And do you have people who have told you that, Dinesh, we find you have changed?
Yes and no. There's some people they say I'm the same as I was 20 years ago. There's some people that you change a lot.
Well, everyone may not notice the change, but
Yes.
some do.
Yeah, some do.
Would anyone else like to share something or anything?
I don't know why I'm sharing this, but just wanted to share two experience. The first one, I came here on 7th, and in 7th night, you came in my dream. And you just asked me, just come with me. And I said, no,
I asked you what?
come with me. And I said, no, I don't know why. Now I know. And I think it's yesterday when you are giving satsang, and for some moments, like everything just disappeared, and I saw Durga Ma like sitting here. I'm not too religious and I didn't like to be religious. I don't know why. Because of some past conditioning, maybe some past experiences. And I'm seeing like I'm trying to focus in where is my master? Go on. But what I feel after coming here is I think master knows what you want. And master give you that.
Even I was never religious. I was averse to temples as a child. But then something very strange started happening. I mean, anyone would say, let's go to a temple, I would run the other way. But as I grew older, in my dreams, names would come of temples. And I don't know how many I've ignored. But then by and by, I kept getting these either visions or names. And I felt if I keep my personal preferences aside, and if the universe has sent me a name, why ignore it? Maybe a force is asking me to go there. So why judge it? Because I never went to temples and begged God for things. My only prayer was a prayer of good health for me and my loved ones. And I would say, dear God, give me the strength to deal with whatever life brings my way. I never asked God for anything. And I had a friend who said, you must ask God. If you ask him for Versace glasses, you might just get them. And I said, no. He said, no, I asked. I said, good for you. It's your thing. It's not my thing. So then what happened? I could not handle temple crowds. I'm the typical sobo snob, you could say. So I would tell God in my mind, you've given me this vision or this name of a temple. Now you find me a good contact to the temple priest where I have to cut the crowds. That's the deal. Then I'll go. And within a month or two, don't ask me how, this would fall into place. Then I started going. Then some people perceived me as religious now. Arey, ye to temple jaate bhai. He's into religion. And I was just following intuition. And when I would go and present myself in front of the deity, the only thing I would say is, you have brought me here. Whatever you want to give me, give me. So I had zero expectations. I wasn't going with an expectation of miracles or, wants and needs. And to date, this is what happens if I receive a calling, I go. Yet, all gods are symbols. All gods are symbols. They stand for something. What we see is one thing. For example, Durga Ma is the Divine Mother. She represents Shakti. So if I am having an experience of Shakti, of energy, and I see a vision of Durga Ma, she is only telling you, I am here. So we don't have to take religious symbols literally. We have to exercise our buddhi to understand what is behind this. And we cannot judge why others go to religious places. We tend to do that. This teaching establishes you in the deepest humility, which says, I don't know. Who am I to judge? Judge not, for ye not be judged. Jesus. If all there is consciousness and I'm judging someone, I'm judging consciousness. Consciousness will judge me back. Why will it judge me back? Because there is no other. To criticize someone means criticism will come back my way. Why? There is no other. Consciousness is all there is. The vibration which you send out is the vibration which comes back to you. Because that vibration is being sent out to yourself, appearing as someone else. And words have tremendous power. Yesterday I said, how much more powerful is silence from which words emerge, as Ramana Maharshi said. But words in themselves are also very powerful. There are yogis who can make a man standing 20 feet in front of them fall down by uttering a mantra. That is the power of sound. So when we release the word, which is loaded with angst and negativity, directed at an individual, we think we are giving the other good, but there is only one. That what we think we are targeting the other with is coming back to us. Therefore, when wisdom teachings are imbibed, I still have to express myself. But because now my reaction is a response, the words I say are different. Because the quality of my consciousness is different, the words which are coming out are now different. And the words are different because my vibration now is different. And then you start asking yourself before you say things to someone, would I say these things to myself? Would I like to hear these words from someone else? Let's keep aside what the person has done. Let's just look at it objectively. Would I like to be at the receiving end? So you see, these things start happening when you see the one behind the many. That is why Joel Goldsmith would say, when you truly acknowledge God as the only power, then your relationship is no longer with people, it is with God. Then he said in his early years, he said, I understood it all, but there were some people in my life I could not get myself to love. In spite of having the deepest understandings, some people I simply could not get myself to love. Then he said, I thought about it, I sat down and I told God, dear God, these people I can't love. Therefore, you please love them through me. I can't do it. So we don't know these karmic accounts of give and take, which have been given to us in this lifetime till our last breath. It's too vast and complex for the human mind to understand. The only thing is to see whether we are perpetuating the karmic bondage. By blame, ill will, condemnation, jealousy, envy, malice, hatred, or pride, arrogance, guilt, and shame for myself. This guilt and shame are very hard to resolve because since childhood we have been made to feel guilty by first our parents for not listening to them and then by society. But even this is the ego. I did something which I am guilty of. The ego loves to feel small because now it has an identity. The victim. The world did this to me. People did this to me. So, to forgive oneself appears harder than to forgive others. It just means you're still stuck in the same trap. truly no emotion is yours and no fear is yours. It is just a movement which is arising based on your genetics and what happened in your life from the day you were born. These constituted your nature. And if it is now obvious that you had no control on your nature, is that emotion yours? Or is it being allowed to come up, be witnessed, and let it go? But the ego is holding on to this natural arising as my arising of an emotion. Who said it's yours? All the factors which led to the arising of the emotion were not in your control. So the problem is not the emotion. The problem is my emotion. And then when people tell you not to feel that way, it is an even worse disservice because it wasn't mine in the first place. And you're telling me not to feel that way. Isn't it absurd? It is absurd. You see the trap we get into? An aggressive person is aggressive because it is God's will. A timid person is timid because it is God's will. Once I have sorted this out and I meet this aggressive person again or the timid person again, now I have the knowledge with a capital K behind me. I still have to deal with the situation. Why would I want to subject myself to an aggressive person again and again? But now I have depersonalized the equation and not held this person guilty for who they are. Earlier, they were guilty for who they are, and we were dealing with the individual. Now I see them as God made them, and now I am dealing with them. Do you see the mountain of a difference? Then, to safeguard my interests, to protect myself, I have to take a decision. But I am no longer interested in a fight. That is what happens. If I have an employer who's nasty towards me, my mind is no longer hating and criticizing him for the way he is, because I have resolved that. He is precisely the way God made him. Unfortunately, I am at the receiving end. Now what do I do? So when all that psychological suffering has gone, when I've understood this concept of non-doership, I am so very much in the moment dealing with the situation at hand. That is all there is. Being in the moment means what? You are always in the moment. It is only the psychological suffering that takes you away from the moment. You cannot not be in the moment, otherwise you'd be dead. But because there's all this garbage of thinking going on in my mind, it takes me away from the moment. And this teaching comes and says, let's clear the garbage out. Who are you blaming? Whom are you pointing a finger at? Whom are you accusing? And then when that garbage is cleaned out, I am dealing with life as is. Moment to moment, situation to situation, person to person. Whether it is family member, friend, staff member, or the stranger on the road. Moment to moment. That is what I would call enlightened living. And enlightened because it is a lighter way of living, isn't it? You have to walk lightly, live lightly, and be light, not be heavy. Anyone else would like to share anything?
So, regarding this teaching, I've been raised in a traditional family, religious one, and I've been hearing it in a very raw form, like sab kuch Bhagwan ki marzi, everything is like. But I've seen like people closer to me in my family kind of using it to their advantage. As in, like if something good happens, then oh, I did that. It is all. And if something bad happens, then to not take the responsibility of the Bhagwan ki marzi hai. I've seen my dad doing it, my mom, everybody around me and all. And I grew up with that kind of resentment, like ki they're just using it as an excuse. Whereas, like, even if somebody has to take responsibility as a person, now I am in the same spot, like space, where I think that in spite of that, like whatever happens, it is God's will. But then through us, it has to be worked out. As in, like some as a person, as a ego, maybe for the lack of better word, we have to take responsibility of whatever has happened and act on that. Now I'm not able to differentiate in terms of like when I say that okay, but I have to like take action. Is it like my ego saying it all? Because I word is very prominent here. Like when I look at it in my context, or when like I see others saying ki ye to matlab, what can I do about it? It's all God will. Then I see that he here also I word is prominent, but it's like I'm not a part of it. It's not my responsibility. So somewhere I see the gap here in terms of like okay, whatever is happening, but what is my role in that? What is other person's role in that? How does divine works it out through us? uh, that like that thing where the ego comes in, maybe it's somewhere like okay, it's me who has to act upon it, or it's you who has to, you are supposed to act upon it. If you're not taking it, you are shying away from your part. So that is the gap I see in like the traditional way of looking at it versus like the purest form of realizing it.
Actually, there is no gap. It's very simple. In daily living, I still have to decide and take decisions and do things like I used to earlier. That does not change at all. I, the ego, have to take a decision. Nothing is changing about that. But now I know that my decision is based on factors beyond my control. My decision is based on how I have been trained and conditioned. So the sage will still take the decision because this is life. Life means taking decisions, whether at work, at home, a decision has to be made. You have to decide when you enter a shop with the intent of buying a shirt and you have money for one shirt and you see a blue shirt and a white shirt, you have to decide which of the two to buy. Daily living means taking a decision. So the man of understanding or the woman of understanding now knows that my decision, which I must exercise, is based on factors beyond my control. Now there are only two outcomes of my decision. Either I get what I want or I don't get what I want. If I get what I want, pleasure will arise that I took the right decision. But because I know it is not my decision, there is no pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance is the me, my decision. I was spot on, man. I did such a good job. There's no room for that now. Similarly, I take the decision and there's failure. When there's failure, I know I thought it was the best possible decision to take, but the results went the other way. So regret will certainly arise. Disappointment will certainly arise, but no guilt or shame. Why? Not my decision. So this is not about escaping responsibility. This is about you, Mangal, taking a decision tomorrow. Now Mangal knows what I thought was my decision and I was the only one wholly and solely accountable. Now I know there's a larger picture which is at play, which brings about results of my so-called actions. So I keep taking decisions in life, but this load I was carrying of pride and arrogance or guilt and shame goes away. Now I am ready to face the consequences of my decisions going forward, knowing I have no control over the consequences. Once again, the whole Bhagavad Gita is about this. All you can do is act. The results have never been in your control and will never be in your control. And this is living the lighter life. Absence of pride and arrogance, absence of guilt and shame, because I've now realized it was truly not my decision. This is not a question of responsibility being given up. It is a question of understanding that the ego, which says that when something goes wrong, it's God's will, and when something goes right, it's my will, is an ego which is actually split and is suffering, fooling itself. The enlightened person knows that whether it is success or failure, whether it is a business decision, whether it is a personal decision, that the result of my decision had to happen the way it happened. I had no control over it. So these thoughts and feelings of acute guilt behind a decision which didn't work out no longer exist, because I'm not the doer of my action. Earlier I was wallowing in guilt. Let's say I had a bad marriage. And now I say, oh God, I didn't see this happening from the start. The signals were there. And a lot of guilt. But sometimes relationships don't work out. We don't know the deep karmic bonds. At a certain point, a decision was made. Results were not in your control. Pain and regret will arise. For sure. But when that pain and regret turns to guilt and shame, the person slips into depression. So when this understanding is there, by the will of God and God's grace, the ego does not slide into depression like it used to slide into depression. Because it is now revealed to the ego. The whole picture is revealed to the ego. Like my teacher would give this example of you go at night to a museum. In the museum, there is 100-foot long painting, but you have a small torch. That small torch, when you put it on the painting, you can only see a part of the painting. You don't know the whole picture. It is only as you go by and by and by and by in the darkness, the picture starts revealing itself. So what we human beings do is we judge the painting, God's will, by only what we see. We don't know the whole picture. We don't know the whole action, reaction, cause and effect loop, why things happen the way they do. But our limited minds are trying to analyze everything till kingdom come. If I had not done that, that would not have happened. If I had said that, maybe that would have happened. When this is given up, that most of life does not make sense, then I stop trying to make sense of all my successes and failures. I give up this game. The mind is too limited to figure it out. Because all this thinking, if I had done this, if I had said that, if they had said that, if they had called me this, that, is gone. Ifs and buts and shoulds and woulds and coulds, these start evaporating. So we have to forget others, forget our parents and how they feel. We are talking about ourselves. We are here now asking what life is about. Now we are getting clarification on the decision-making process, what happens, what is behind it, and what about the consequences. And we have to investigate for ourselves. Going forward, let me see what happens when I take a decision and how I react to it, depending on the outcome. You know, I'll tell you something this man told me. He is now perhaps 82. And he follows masters who are no longer in the body, they are his gurus. So he told me once he was going through a very challenging situation with his wife because she was a certain way and he wanted to do something which was becoming a real battle for him to do, to tell her, you know, that I feel like doing this. This is going through a lot of turmoil. And he said, at that time, his friend brought him to Ramesh Balsekar. And he said, I was not impressed because I have my own gurus after all. Nothing happened. And he said, I didn't go again. And then somehow a book landed up in his house. Another friend had sent this book called Your Head in the Tiger's Mouth, Ramesh Balsekar. He said, I've been to this man's place, but there's no point reading this book. So he was flipping through it, you know, literally flipping. And he stopped on one page. And he said, my eyes fell on only one line. And that line was, act as if you are dead and then do whatever you like. He said that hit me like a thunderbolt. Act as if you are dead and then do whatever you like. He said at that instance, I closed the book and I went to my wife and told her, you know, this is what I feel like doing. I hope you'll be okay with it. And he went. So, what does this mean? If I am not the doer, then what repercussions am I worried about? Consequences will be there. I have to take decisions knowing that. But I move on in life. I don't get stuck. I don't get depressed. I don't go into a hole out of which I can't come out. God has never guaranteed anyone that all their decisions will go right. Wanting this guarantee is why we suffer and blame ourselves and hate ourselves for taking wrong decisions. Then we get afraid to take decisions because we are too embedded in my decision. Then fear starts setting into the system. Ask anyone in the stock market. You analyze till the end a particular stock and it makes sense that you buy it and it goes down. You're certainly going to feel bad about it because you put a lot of research into it. Now, are you going to slide into depression? Or have you accepted this is life? All I can do is try my best and take a decision. In this case, it didn't work out. What happens? I have now experience. Hopefully, I'll be more careful next time. That is all there is. And if again I fail next time, then I'll probably think about whether I need to be in the stock market. Whether it is for me, if I am of the temperament, or it's not for me. If I feel I have been shaken up enough by these decisions which have not gone in my favor, I will take lesser risks in the stock market. So life goes on. Decision making has to go on, and I learn the lessons I'm meant to learn. But I'm no longer depressed that I lost money. Sad, of course. Who wants to lose money? But wallowing in self-pity, no. So this teaching makes us more courageous to move on in life. Move ahead, move further, go on. You know how I survived 24 years in book publishing? My first book was my mother's book. She had a series of experiences. She drew these drawings based on her experiences, which were in color. And I had an ad agency then. When this manuscript was ready, we showed it to people and they said, you must bring this out as a book so it can help others going through similar experiences. We had no idea of publishing. So we sent it to some publishers in the US. The feedback we got was it's a very unique experience, but her drawings are in color. So it's an expensive book. So publishers asked us to fund the publishing. If you pay us the cost of the book, we will publish the book. So me, in my innocence, you could say, running an ad agency, we used to print a lot of corporate brochures and all that stuff. I said, if I'm paying someone else money, I'll do it myself. I know the printing process. So we brought it out ourselves. I used the same printers who printed the brochures, got the book ready, used the same creative director and all that. Then when I had 5 copies, I took them to one bookstore in Bombay, very famous bookstore at the time, and they said, oh, lovely, we have all upper class customers and they will love this book, so you leave 5 copies. Do you know, I lost so much money on that book because in hindsight, I realized that the printers had taken me for a ride. I had no knowledge of book printing, only like 20-page corporate brochures printing. At that time, we had processors. At that time, we had typesetting artists. These don't exist today. And I made all the possible mistakes in book publishing that I could have. Worse is that bookstore called me back saying, send 5 more copies. The first 5 copies are sold. And I sent 5 more copies and I never got the money for the 10 copies. That was my start in book publishing. And that was the same time I met my teacher. And I realized, because I said book publishing is not for me, clearly. But one event led to the next, and it so happened I got into book publishing. But then I realized we are too quick to judge failures. Failures are just labels we have stuck on an outcome which we think didn't go our way. And I said, let me look at this another way. I will never repeat these mistakes ever again. And perhaps because I made all the mistakes with the first book, I have survived for 24 years. So you see, perspective and attitude changes things around. Being open, not labeling, and seeing where life flows. And the only criteria is, as far as work is concerned, I tell people whether they are running businesses or employed in one. The only criteria is your peace of mind. If you're an employer, hopefully you're not taking away your employee's peace of mind. And if you're an employee and you feel that your peace of mind is disturbed in your work, you have to figure out what is the way out. A decision has to be taken. What is it? Simple. And work is a very tricky thing, because people bring their work frustrations home. It's very common. There was someone we knew who was running a catering business in Bombay, and she had to deal with the workforce, the cooks and all that stuff. And the only way being a woman was to use abusive language. She had to use it because they were using it with each other. So to be heard, she just started using it as part of the work conditioning. And she came home and started using that language to her father. He was shocked. These things happen. I'm not saying fairy tales. This is daily living. So a person who is lost in this, if it is their destiny, they come across something which is, hey, hold on. Do you realize in your quest for profit, you're eroding your own peace of mind as well as others' peace of mind? Why does that happen? Because I'm identified with my job. Now I'm a success at what I do. Now I have to live up to that success at all costs. And I start walking over people, be it my colleagues or my family. Now I've built an identity of being a very successful entrepreneur. Now I must defend it. There goes my peace. So this teaching is a recalibration, a reinterpretation of how am I handling my life, my relationships, myself. And if you have someone in your lives who's lost in this, and you can see that person is actually suffering without knowing it, maybe that person needs a helping hand. That, hey, where has your innocence gone? Where has your joyfulness gone? Have you forgotten why you are doing what you are doing? Someone I had met in South India said after these talks, she devised a practice for herself because she was a reactive person. So her practice was that whenever this feeling of reacting is arising, she said, I immediately, at least that much presence is there, I tell myself, count to 100. And she said, she was so successful in her practice that after that 100, she said, I felt it pointless to even say anything. Finished. So then her family, I think she's in her late 60s or something, said, what is wrong with you? You're not reacting only. She said, now I have to deal with that, so please help me. I said, please, you're okay dealing with that. I don't mind. Main problem is sorted. Amazing how it works. She said, it's just, I feel after that count of 100, there's no point only. Because it doesn't seem as important as it did earlier. It's lost its importance. This is what she told me. It's lost its importance. So It works.
Just want to express my deep gratitude to you and Rameshji for coming into our life and bringing so much peace. And I don't know what else to do. I want to be more at service for this teaching.
The biggest service is to allow the teachings to live through you. I won't be telling you to come and set up my hall for birthday parties with balloons and ribbons and all that. Thankfully, this is not that kind of a thing.
Ramesh is not in his body, but it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, same here. Someone had asked Nisargadatta Maharaj, they were in a satsang, and for the same question, he gave two different answers to two different people. I said, you're contradicting yourself? Are you a guru? He said, look, firstly, the answers don't come from the mind. I'm not thinking about the answer. And secondly, I'm not answering the question. I'm answering the questioner. Doesn't make sense, right, to our minds? What's this going on? But what is going on is when you come into the field of a master, the source is expressing words through the master for that particular person. This is not about consistency. This is not about anything your thinking mind is thinking about. Because the answer is going to the root of the question. The question which is coming out is just on the top. That is how it's working. And it's only peace. I fully agree with you. I don't know any other criteria. You see, we could use this word peace also as samadhi. Samadhi is a very big word. What does samadhi mean? A deep peace. What does ananda mean? Deep contentment. So simple. Like that. Earlier, I gave the example of this man who came to Ramesh's talks from New Zealand. And he said, for every day that he was there, he just heard the words Ramesh would keep repeating, let life flow, let life flow, let life flow. Then he came to my office for a cup of tea. So he had come a couple of times from New Zealand. So he said to me, he said, the last time, he said, you won't believe what happened. I was familiar with Ramesh's core message, let life flow, very simple, no problem. I went back to New Zealand and there were floods. The floods were so severe that the local municipality made people vacate their homes, and they were standing on the ridge, and I saw my home being washed away. And he said, I burst out laughing. So my wife said, what the hell is wrong with you? And he said, this is what Ramesh would say, let life flow. This happened to him. He said, I saw my house going and I laughed. He said, I felt as if Ramesh was prepping me for this event. He said, ours was not the only home, and it was all insured and all that. There was, of course, pain and all that, but what can you do? This starts becoming the mantra. Either so be it, let life flow, whatever it may be. Like Annabelle was sharing yesterday, you have an exhibition, you sell most of the paintings, then you have another exhibition and only two sell. What can you do? You had no complaint when you sold most of the paintings, but when you sell only two, you complain. But if you allow life to flow, knowing that paintings will sell or not depending on destiny and God's will, what do? You still go about painting when you're inspired to paint and leave the results to God. That's how you handle life. We would go into depression, only two paintings sold. My God, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything. Where's the question of doing wrong or doing right? You just move on. Find out other ways to sell those unsold paintings. See if you want to try another style, whatever it may be. Move on. I know people who shut themselves up in their homes for 3-4 days in depression. What a precious waste of time. Yes, I do understand if it's your destiny, that will happen. But anyone drawn to the spiritual path has been given the opening and opportunity. Anyone else?
Yeah. So I wanted to have your opinion on one aspect. So one of the aspects of life by which the ego draws a deep sense of identity is the amount of wealth you have accumulated or the amount of money you have. And we live in a world where, money is kind of driving the economy, and it's become a very big part of everyone's life. So, you need money for everything. So, and there are various, I would call it influence streams, which, feed you, this is not enough, this is not enough. So, you mentioned about de-selfing, the incident of a Sufi mystic where, you take away the wealth, and whether you see whether you're able to sustain that, or, there is a teaching in that. So I wanted to know whether at what point you draw the line, because on one hand you need money to survive, and a lot of money to survive if you need to live well, and on the other hand you see that uh, on the other hand you are kind of breeding the ego in a way, because the ego will have identify itself with the amount of wealth it has. So what is your, I mean, this is a practical question, like what is your point of view?
So I don't think this is important to someone on the spiritual journey as it is to someone not on the spiritual journey. For example, I have goals, I have aspirations, and I ask myself how much money do I need a year or a month. Now I'm talking of someone who's on a spiritual journey, who knows that peace of mind is not to be found in money beyond it sustaining my lifestyle. So such a person would ask himself, what do I need to be comfortable in life, to take care of my various interests and hobbies, and can I work towards that goal? Now, when that goal is reached, then because I'm not functioning on greed, I know when to call it quits. So, therefore, a person who is aware that money is just a means to an end to get me the things that I need to function and live the way I want to, it all becomes very structured. When this understanding is not there and the greed to acquire more is rampant, more and more and more, because I'm deriving my sense of self from money, then I don't know where to stop. So, this would largely not happen for someone on the spiritual journey. Someone who feels money is the be all and end all of everything. For my happiness, I need as much money as I can accumulate. For that person, it is that. So I would not worry about this issue because there are default settings in place. Otherwise, one would not be on the spiritual path. And the opposite can happen. If I find that even by working less, I'm making more and more money, which I really don't need, I will start giving that away. That is what happens. Now, greed is a funny thing. I know someone who had a deep sense of lack in their younger days. Money was short. They lived a very simple life. And then he joined the corporate world, resigned, and moved into the stock market. And he made crores and crores and crores. He made so much money, but he could not spend it. Because the sense of lack was so deep. Where he could take a taxi, he wouldn't take the car. Is he to be blamed? No. That was his conditioning out of which he could not come out of. But the need to acquire was so great that when he passed away, that money just went to his heirs. It was not distributed. It was not really given to charities beyond a point. So I feel that someone who's on the spiritual journey does not suffer this level of ignorance. Greed is a function of unconscious living. I don't think someone whose quest is to find true happiness would be lost in the cycle of making more and more money. There is the opposite of this. I may have fear of losing money. I'm on this spiritual journey, but I have this deep fear of losing money. And therefore, because the fear of losing money is there, I start trying to make more and more money so I'll never be short of money. Because maybe I'll lose it all. And then the mind loses its perspective. Based on past experience in which it has got stuck and there is fear, I don't know where to draw the line. This is the absolute same thing in reverse. It has gone out of proportion. For example, I know I need 2 lakhs a month to run my house. And I'm earning 20 lakhs a month. I still feel it's not enough. That fear is so strong. It is now an irrational fear, no longer rational. Why is this happening? Issue is the same. I'm deriving my sense of self from my bank balance. So when I don't lose this objectivity as far as money is concerned, I be pretty realistic about my needs and wants and how much is there to fulfill it. And I keep some apart for a rainy day, I'm fine. And if I find myself earning more, I give it freely. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of, but there was a story of Muhammad where, each day whatever he used to earn, he used to give it away and still be relaxed. So, in today's world, that's not possible. You need
Certainly
certain,
not.
yeah.
Certainly not.
So, can we reach a stage where even though you are bankrupt, you can still admire, the nature and be at peace?
Only if you're not fighting for survival.
So that is where even what you're speaking about, making a security or planning your future, also is a sense of security for the ego, right? It is planning something.
For its survival.
Yeah.
Of
So
course
there
it
is an element of a person who is planning and saving for the future. But that is not what I was like. Can we reach a stage where even if everything is gone, there is no, at the moment, I can still admire the birds chirping around and looking at it and admiring it? Can we reach a stage of so much detachment? Because the sense of security, what you're saying, I need 2 lakhs a month, the underlying thought is again to safeguard the ego, right? To safeguard the person who has to stay, has to retire, and live a comfortable life.
Not to safeguard the ego, to safeguard the survival of the body-mind mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. That is, the identification is with that body mind as the ego,
and
right?
that is why Ramesh would say that to tell a poor person about spiritual subjects is putting salt on an open wound. because they would say, please don't give me your gyan. All I am concerned with is food, shelter, and clothing.
True, I'm not arguing about that. So, as I said, the concept of the idea of saving something for the future, the underlying thought is the ego has to be safeguarded. Can we reach a stage where I say, okay, tomorrow I am on the road, but still I can admire the nature, I can be at peace with myself
Could be.
without any savings?
Could be. Anything is possible.
So then you are totally detached with whatever happens to this body mind, because you are not at all concerned with, you don't look at it as safeguarding something.
Yes.
You would be equally probably looking at somebody, a beggar, and maybe even if you make 100 rupees the same day, you might donate the 100 rupees to the beggar because you don't care what happens to this body mind.
Could be. Anything is possible. That is why if you go to the interiors of countries, you will find what you think are mad people. They are dressed in rags. They go on saying things which don't make sense, but they are very content.
So to me, that is freedom. If I safeguard this body mind, even with a pension of 1 lakh or 2 lakh, that for me is not freedom, because I'm still trying to protect the ego. To me, freedom is even if something happens tomorrow and I am bankrupt, I'm on the road, I don't care. I still live with the same amount of peace and equanimity and happiness within me.
You could say that, but let's not forget one important point. Man has been designed biologically to look left and right before crossing a road. Man has been designed to survive till his quota of breaths is over. Otherwise, such a man as the one you described would stop looking left and right as well.
Not really. Because at the moment, if I need food, I will arrange it for
How
this.
will you arrange it?
I mean, it will come to me in some way. I'll work for it. It's not the means, but it's the mindset which, I mean, I may be wrong. This is something what I was thinking about, because to me, that is freedom, total freedom, complete freedom. I don't care if I have 0 or I have 100 crores in my bank. It's
You
the
see,
same.
in the earlier days of the barter system, which was a far purer system than what we have today, there was a give and take which was need based. If I needed rice and I had something to give and someone else valued that, it was a perfect exchange. So, yes, money became a corruption over time. But still, what Maharaj called the food body, the natural instinct of animals and human beings is to survive. That instinct has been given by God. It is not our instinct. So to say the absolute freedom is to not even want to survive.
Not really. The absolute freedom is not thinking about accumulating anything.
You could say that.
Won't it be the ultimate level of surrender to God? That you look after me in every sense of the word. I don't have anything. I'll get food when I want, and I don't need.
Yes, I agree.
Still, the body will ask for it, no? Hunger will arise, the body will ask for
Yes.
it. And if nobody's giving you food at that time, you are not looking for that.
That's what I'm saying. That's the natural instinct.
Yes.
That if it doesn't lead to psychological suffering,
No, but
hunger is accepted.
ultimately,
Either you starve and die, which is also God's will, or if food comes to you once a day and you are happy with it.
Perhaps.
It's faith and surrender.
There are a lot of people who, like you said, in the interiors, if you go, they may not be mad, they may be in their senses also
Perceived as mad.
perceived as mad, and they do live like this, and they are content.
Sure.
we should all focus to try and live debt-free life.
That is
That's
the
the biggest
ultimate, deepest surrender.
Could be.
depend upon each one's constitution. Right? A businessman is made to do a business and accumulate and create wealth. That's that person's constitution, and it comes naturally to that person.
Some people have the destiny to accumulate wealth, some people don't.
But none of these situations have anything to do with being free. Living is about that. You could be in any of those situations and you could be free.
You could be a billionaire who's free.
Yeah. So my point is exactly that, even if I have enough amount, can I internally be
Of course.
of a nature where
Of
I
course.
am non-accumulating?
Yes.
The idea of
Yes.
saving something for the future is of an accumulating mind. So,
But my destiny could still be for me to earn $10 billion.
yeah, of course. Like Janaka, the story where, he is a king and his, the palace is on fire and he sits there in total equanimity because it's in the mind. It's not what you have or don't have.
Yeah.
But also that if I save money, that doesn't mean that I'm accumulating.
It doesn't.
It doesn't also mean that I'm not.
You're being practical.
He's answering the question, not the question.
You're being practical.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not about the money itself.
The freedom is in the being, right?
The body is like a temple in which consciousness uses. So why not respect it and give whatever it requires and maybe celebrate it,
Of course.
Why look at it from an austere, rejection point?
Someone who is designed to look at it from that point of view will look at it from that point of view. But does not mean everyone will look at it from that point of view. Now, for example, you go to Ramana Maharshi's room and you go to Sri Aurobindo's room. They are in stark contrast.
Sure.
Ramana Maharshi's room is so simple. There's a matka, there's a stick, and nothing much else, and a diya. And Sri Aurobindo's room, you will find the most beautiful curios, sculptures, because he used to be in Europe. Europeans would come and visit him, and by and large, whatever was given to the master was kept. So it all depends on each one's destiny. Would Aurobindo need those curios and those carvings? Someone who had reached such high states of consciousness really had no need for them, but did he reject them? So that was his destiny. Someone like Ramana Maharshi had no need for them because he came with a loincloth to Tiruvannamalai. That was his destiny. So it is not a one-size-fits-all. Each one is coming with their own vasanas and sanskars.
I would say the point to be considered would be how much you are attached to what you get.
And how much are you attached to your objects?
Yes. That would be of more relevance.
Yes. Absolutely. Like, say someone who, let's say a woman who's come from a very simple background, simple childhood, marries into wealth. Okay? And she forgets where she came from. Suddenly it's this glitter and glamour and brands and everything. And she takes on this identity. Now she thinks she is this. She has not realized that when she was young and money was not there, she was not deriving her sense of self from all this. Now she has married into wealth. And the ego has not realized that now I have all these identifications which I didn't have earlier. Then there's suffering. This is how suffering starts seeping in without realizing it. People forget where they came from. I mean, can you imagine such a woman one day wakes up with all the wealth around them and says, hey, maybe I don't need the Louis Vuitton bag. Maybe I don't need the Gucci belt. Maybe I don't need this Mercedes Benz because I didn't come from there. Do I have the courage to let it all go and just live a simple life? Then I will know whether I was deriving my sense of self from all this. Now, tomorrow, let's say the wealth is gone and I'm still happy because I've not forgotten where I came from. I was always content. I'll always be content. I'm not deriving my sense of self from this. But by and large, people would suffer the loss.
People slip.
People slip. People suffer the loss. Because the ego loves to identify with objects.
Because ego is so inflated with
It derives its sense of self from these objects.
happiness.
It happens. Now, when Vivekananda was suffering poverty, his guru was very worried. His guru was in pain. That my own disciple is telling Kali Ma, how can you do this to me? This poor fellow is fainting, because of lack of food. It was not Vivekananda was in bliss and didn't derive a sense of self because there was no money, no food, he was fine. It is a biological need. And the guru was suffering the disciple's destiny. That you are my mother, I have a direct contact with you, and this is how you are treating my disciple. So these are different things. What we are trying to paint here is an ideal scenario. Certainly, it is much tougher for someone with wealth to release the grip the wealth has on them. Certainly. And you are right. Anything stored for the future is a comfort zone because the ego is afraid to die. But we are born with this innate sense of survival.
So I just a short story which I heard, which like really inspired me. So there was a king, and he went on the outskirts of the village, and he found a yogi. So this yogi, and he felt that he should invite him and stay in his palace. And he said, the king asked him, I find you really enlightened. Please come and stay with me in my palace. And the yogi immediately agreed. Yes, yes, I'll come. And the king was a little shocked. He didn't expect him to come to his place and stay with him. But he said, now I've offered, so I have to go. So I have to honor what I have offered. So the yogi came with him and stayed in his palace, enjoyed everything, all the benefits, slept, and he was not ready to leave, in the sense he didn't say that I'll leave or something, and he was every day treating himself as a king. So then the king was a little curious, this seems to be a fishy guy because now he's living like a king. And then he was like wanting him to leave, but he was enjoying himself with all the Nach Gana and your sumptuous meals and everything. And then once the king was looking very worried in front of the yogi. So yogi said, you ask what you want to ask. So he said, this thought has come that you and me are the same. You are enjoying the same pleasures as I am enjoying, and you are living like a king. So I don't see, this thought has come. So the yogi said, the first time you invited me and I said, yes, this thought had arisen in your mind, but I didn't say anything. Okay, you want to see what is the difference between you and me? Come, we'll go out, I'll show you. So both of them left outside the kingdom. And the yogi said, okay, bye, now I'm leaving. You also can join me. The king said, no, I cannot leave because I have my family, my wealth and everything. So then the yogi said, this is what, is the difference between you and me. I can enjoy the pleasure and I can leave it in an instant.
Yes. Because that is where the yogi came from.
Yeah. So that is the mental non-attachment. While you have, I mean, the pleasures, I'm not saying you don't need to enjoy them. Of course you do, like Mina, probably Osho did, but he was not mentally attached for a second. And that to me is difficult. I don't know whether I can do that. So yeah, that was the whole question about.
It's very relative, I feel. For example, it's all right to say that you have 99 Rolls Royces, but you didn't care a damn whether they were there or not. But someone of a different temperament, a guru of a different temperament, may also tell his disciples, I don't need these. You take that money and give it to charity. So it depends on each person's temperament. Now I remember when I used to drive to Ramesh's home for satsang, on Marine Drive, there are these 3 gymkhanas where weddings take place. And each wedding, there used to be this event management decorator who comes to the club I go to. He would say in those days, people would spend 50 lakhs to 1 crore for the decorations at these venues. And someone told Ramesh about this. And he really felt, he said, it's such a waste of money. And I really wish people didn't indulge in this show and that they gave the money to charity. That was his thought. Someone else may say they are doing what they are doing, it is their money. That is their thought. It all depends. If someone is born into wealth, a wealthy family, his family was quite well off actually, it does not mean that they are denied the gift of enlightenment either, because the wealth is there. There are some gurus who tell their disciples, please first make your money and then come to us. So at least that issue is resolved. Because it's such a big thing, Once I remember something very strange. I don't know if it was the guru's test for this disciple, but there was this man, and suddenly in the satsang, the guru thanked this man for his big donation. I was like, that's so nice, that this man gave a big donation. And later on, I found out that the big donation was only 12,000 rupees. And then I met this man. So he said, this guru told me that you go away, you make your money, then you come back to me. And so how did he make his money? In those days, there was a website called betfair.com, betfair.com. So he said, I started betting. And I made money. And, I gave 12,000 rupees to the guru and I was shocked. I said, maybe he genuinely feels 12,000 rupees is a lot. Maybe, I don't know. And then the guru is thanking him in front of everyone. I was asking myself, is the guru testing this guy or what? I was so confused. But then I realized I'm judging the situation. The guru is not a fool. The guru has told this man whatever he's had to tell him in public for a reason which I will never know. Who am I to judge the disciple and who am I to judge the guru? I don't know the full picture. Based on only what I know, I'm judging it. So we don't know how gurus operate. They also don't know. They don't know what comes out of their mouths. It is just meant to come out. And then we hold them accountable. You get my point? They don't know. Money is a very funny thing. Money does make the world go round. Unfortunately. It's so unfair. God has gifted different people with different abilities. Some are able to make money and some are not. Is it fair? And then we look down on beggars. Oh, they are not working. And we look up and suck up to those who have money. We do that. People do that. I have seen it. In Bombay, I have seen it. Because society at large derives its sense of self from money. Unfortunately. Anything else?
In the West, it's very common that everybody attached, the old people are very much attached to their money. They want to spend themselves before they die. Don't pass it on to the kids, to the next generation. They want to spend before they die.
I think that's great.
I've seen people in their 75, 80s again renovating their houses and everything, just spending their money. That's it. Is this a right way? That's a question for you now.
For them, it is the right way, as per their destiny.
For society also it's good that they are not into creating a generation well for their kids and their kids' kids.
Let the kids work hard.
Some people do that. I have heard of musicians who leave just 10% for their kids, as successful musicians. We don't know. The problem with this is me and mine. I am leaving my money for my family. If you truly felt one with all being, this thought would not be so deeply embedded, this me and mine. And some stranger may have a need for money and approach a millionaire. An enlightened millionaire may just give freely because the me and mine is not as deeply operating in the enlightened millionaire as in a normal millionaire. The enlightened millionaire may feel this man's daughter is like my own daughter. They are more in need of money and I'm saving it only for me and mine. All right, I'll give 1% of my money for society and charity. Some people do that and feel great about it. You know, in Islam, they have this rule of 2% of their earnings. But in the Tibetan way, the course which I did, they have actually a structure. The beginning level, the mid level, and the highest level. And it's coming to your point. In that course, I learned the more you have, the more you have to give. The more you have, the more you have to give. Normal society does not function like that. The me and the mine is too strong. So coming back to the basics, as Goldsmith would say, the key sentence is, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee." The person whose mind is stayed on God will always be in perfect peace. And how is mind stayed on God? Not by thinking about your God, not by thinking about Shiva, Durga, Mahavira, Buddha. When you see God in everyone, whether you like them or not, whether you see the hand of God in your pleasures and pains because they come unasked, especially your pains you don't ask for yet they come. When you start seeing the hand of God, God is always on your mind. And therefore, you are in perfect peace. Of course, no one will want pain. Everyone's natural instinct is to wish it wasn't there, but you don't battle with it. Now your focus is, how do I deal with the pain? It has come unasked. It is there in front of me. And so, this is how God, called the source, consciousness, whatever you may call it, is always on my mind. Always on my mind means always in my heart. Therefore, I'm at perfect peace. And how is that tested? When whatever I am identified with is taken away from me, how do I react to it? You'll reach a stage where, let's say, you purchased a new dress or new shirt. In the first wash, the color has gone. Are you going to scream and shout at the maid who did it? Maybe in the moment. But are you able to let go and say, thank God, one more identification gone? Are you going to acquire and acquire and acquire and acquire, be it objects, be it friendships, whatever it may be, so that the sense of self is in acquiring mode and enhanced? Or has the process of reversal begun? Because there's no longer a deriving of a sense of self from that which does not give me true happiness. No object can give me true happiness. No person can give me true happiness. The only true happiness is within, given to me by my own higher self. A state of mind where I don't want anything from anyone would be true happiness. I don't want your approval. I don't want your love. I don't want this. I don't want that. I'm free. I'm free to be the way God made me, and therefore I set others free to be the way God made them. I have to set others free. My freedom is not one-sided. First, I have to set others free too. And we are too scared of peace. And today we have very good tools. The mobile phone. Start checking. Tick, 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 tick. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. Start checking people's DPs out. You're too scared of peace. My active mind is, I'm fine. I'm an active mind now. I'm too scared. Who am I without this active mind? Then what happens? Fragmented attention, ADHD, and terms which we never heard of before. The mind is getting just sucked into this cartwheel. I look back at the days when there were no mobile phones, there was no email. They were such simpler days, and yet time flew. Nobody had the option to post that I am at Stockholm airport. That option was not there. Your close friends knew you were at Stockholm airport, that's it. But now I have a platform to project the sense of self. Look at me, I am at Stockholm airport. How come when you went to Bilaspur on work, you didn't post a picture at Bilaspur airport? Because people will look down upon you. You see? This ego has now been given a rampant platform to project images. It will create more mental illness. Imagine you're sitting at home in your kurta, pajama or whatever, and will you ever post that photo? But no, you'll wear your Gucci and say, at a party last night with friends. Look at me. Screaming to be looked at. These are very dangerous developments. Then I start acquiring followers. I start sending friend requests to people I am just an acquaintance with. So people can see how many friends are there in my friends list. That's what I start doing. And then I start wishing acquaintances happy birthday so that on my birthday they all wish me back. To feel good about myself. You see how the ego works? We are just exposing the way the ego works. That's all we are doing. We have to be very careful with all this.
I had a question. So, you know what you just said about deriving that sense of self from posting pictures, garnering attention, wanting more people to wish you on your birthday. If you have the opposite feeling, which I do, so I prefer on my birthdays, I actually get stressed on the day of the birthday because I don't want, you know, so many phone calls and attention, and I hate cutting a cake, etc. But is that also in some ways I should be neutral, right? To the process?
No. Let me sort this out. No. There is no I should be. Supposing at a deep level, you feel that I'm just content and want to really be with myself on my birthday and contemplate how the last year has gone. Or really, I don't like attention of any sort because that's the way I have been made. Now, what would being neutral mean? Your loved ones say, don't do that. At least cut a cake with us. In that sense, yes. But is it your preference? Certainly not. Nothing to feel bad about. In fact, such people have a big advantage. A huge advantage. Because as the mother of Pondicherry said, according to her understanding, the birthday is the only day in the year when the gate to where the soul came from is open to connect back to the source. I have read these words of hers. Now, someone who doesn't like celebrating birthdays the way most of us do, calling friends, having lunches, parties, may intuitively know this and prefers naturally not to be mired in all this and to just be within. But because the societal pressure is so strong about having a good time on your birthday, definition of good time being friends and hoo-hoo, ha-ha and all that stuff, you have to play along, unfortunately. But I say that anyone like you, and in this room or in any ashram or in any spiritual circle, most people are like that. It is because intuitively they know my happiness is not about this. My happiness is not about cutting a cake. Damn that first person who cut a cake on their birthday. Somebody started it. Then it became the norm. Really? Sorry, I mean, your business depends on that. No, but it's true. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. What is breakfast, lunch, dinner? When the Industrial Revolution started, the office system started, the routine became breakfast, lunch. Who said breakfast, lunch, dinner? In the ashrams, you had 2 meals a day. Traditionally, in the Gurukul system, that was all that was required. We just fell into this trap. And so the herd mentality is cut a cake on your birthday. So nothing to be shy of, nothing to feel bad about. I have friends, single and married, who go away on their birthdays, with kids and without kids. I'm not talking of only without kids. That is the day they want to go within. And with age, with the passing of time, you're not 20, let's say you're not 30, let's say you're 40. How many cakes are you going to cut? All your life till your last breath? So these are just conditioned rituals of celebration. This is not really who we are. Yet, one year I might feel like cutting a cake. Another year I may feel like not. Because I don't derive my sense of self from that anymore. So I make no rules. One year I may feel like on my birthday traveling. One year I may feel I'll be with my loved ones. Let them be happy, chalo. But do I have to do that every year when let's say my soul calling is taking me another way? Certainly not. In fact, I am doing a bigger service to my loved ones by going within on my birthday and not without. But they don't realize that. They think I'm selfish. Whereas when I go within and discover this deep well within my own being, not only is it going to benefit me, it is going to benefit those around me. People don't see it that way. Codependent relationships. Once again, covert control and domination telling you how you should be and behave. So sad.
I keep my phone off on my birthday. Yeah. And past 2 years, there's always a call from Shirdi, and I've been spending somehow I managed to come down to here. And my family said, once in a year spending time with us and you just escape. I said, it's just a call. I just want to be with my master and be in gratitude, Yeah.
There are other things that the pain of being born is remembered on your birthday, and that itself is like too much to bear.
Did I say that?
You said something.
Quite impressed. It is the pain of separation.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is remembered, Sanjana,
Yeah.
is the original pain of being separated from the source. You feel,
Yeah.
what is there to celebrate about being separated from the source?
True.
The one on the spiritual journey feels this pain. I know people who remember their pre-birth stage. Now I've not read this in books. I know people. I know someone who said that when I was on my way down, I was aghast. And I said to myself, oh no, there we go again. And then I was in darkness for 9 months. Yet, if it is our destiny to incarnate we must, to learn what lessons are left to learn, to face the challenges we are meant to face. This time, with the grace of the divine, I meet them all with peace, equanimity, and calm. So you are not alone, though it may appear to be that way, especially when one is not in a spiritual circle. Like I had friends in Delhi who felt so lonely. They were not friends really, they came through the teaching. And they have no one in their neighborhood and community to share spiritual discussions with. They are people like you and me. They are industrialists, but they have the spiritual streak. And he calls me every 3-4 months. He says, Gautam, even today I can't find anyone in my neighborhood to chat with, so I'm sorry I have to pick up the phone and talk to you. And Delhi, as a generalization, is a bit difficult when you're in certain circles. It's a lot about impressing people and others. And he's stuck in that. What to do? So really, and I keep saying, I've kept saying on this retreat, if anything you have heard in these 3 days is the opposite of what you thought, do think about it. That is the whole point of coming together. If your first reaction is no, can't be, say maybe, perhaps, I don't know, time will tell. Maybe, perhaps, could be, I don't know, time will tell. And time will tell. Time will tell. That all right, so far, a particular way of thinking has not brought me peace. Let's try this way. Until I try, only then I will know. And then I realize, what have I been beating myself up for? When the other people were drunk, they accused me of being drunk. I was the one who was free, made to feel that I was in prison. What a liberating thought that is. And I am here to tell you that. Don't be afraid to be who you are, the way God made you. There are no rights and wrongs and how you should be and should not be. As Maharaj said, don't pretend to be what you are not. Don't be afraid to be what you are. This pretense for society, for myself, when I know who I truly am, in the core of my being, no one else does. Not mother, not father, not child, not friend, not lover. In the core of my being, I know who I am. Let me stop pretending. Then I no longer live for me and mine. I give this example always of my Sufi master. He said one day he had this thought that every Eid I am celebrating with my children who have their spouses, who have their children. What use am I with them? They have each other. He said, one Eid I sat down and told my family that, look, I'm done with y'all. It doesn't mean I love y'all less, but y'all have each other. I am going to make myself available on Eid to those who don't have anyone. And from that year onwards, he went to the orphanage to celebrate Eid. So the hold the me and mine has, loves it, clutching and grasping at it. The world becomes yours. That is the expansion the Guru wants. The world is your family. It's not a cliche, it becomes like that.